Welcome to another edition of Bible Time. I'm glad that you're able to join with me on this, and I'm really enjoying our time of going through the Old Testament together. And as we're following along the Believers Fellowship Daily Bible Reading, we're in the book of Chronicles, which we understand was one book when it was originally written. We've broken it down to 1st and 2nd Chronicles. The original book of Chronicles was the last book in the Hebrew Bible. Maybe not the last one written. Malachi might have been written later, a little bit later than Chronicles, but it was either the last or the next to the last book written. And it was written probably by Ezra, who has his own book that we'll be coming to eventually, and written to the people who had come back from captivity, back to Jerusalem, back to restoring the temple and life there in Jerusalem. And as you read through a book, as you read it carefully, you start to kind of pick up on what the author is getting at, and what's the main point here, and where are we going with this. It's just like any other book that you would read. As an author, he's telling you certain things, and he's presenting a certain picture. And that's what you see happening here. Again, a lot of the things you're not going to read about here in Chronicles that we did read about, like in Kings, because the author here is trying to be optimistic and encouraging to these captives who have come back. And so he doesn't go into detail about the northern kingdom. You'll notice today in chapter 10, it talks about the division between the northern kingdom, 10 tribes of the north, and 2 tribes of the south, with Judah being the primary one in the south. And so they became known as Israel and Judah. He's going to follow Judah because he's going to follow the line of David. That's one of his things he wants to emphasize, the line of David, the promises to David. And what he's emphasizing here as he talks about the division, he makes it out that this is all part of God's plan, that God's plan even incorporates disastrous situations like what you see here. For example, in chapter 10, verse 15, it says, so the king did not listen to the people. I mean, the people had said, hey, Solomon really made it tough for us. Could you make it a little easier? He did not listen to the people, for, here's the reason, it was a turn of affairs brought about by God, that the Lord might fulfill his word, which he spoke by Ahijah the Shilonite to Jeroboam the son of Nebat. That was a prophecy that the Lord gave, that the kingdom would be divided. And that's one thing you're going to start noticing here too in Chronicles is the role that the prophets play in presenting God's perspective on the things that are happening. So this wasn't just a fight between the people of Israel. This was part of God's plan to divide the north from the south. And even when Rehoboam gets upset and puts together his army, and I'm going to go after these guys, they're going to come back to me. We read about Shemaiah, the man of God, here in chapter 11, verse 2, that the word of the Lord came to this prophet. And he said, say to Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, king of Judah, and to all Israel and Judah and Benjamin, thus says the Lord, you shall not go up or fight against your relatives. Return every man to his home. And here it is, for this thing is from me. And so Ezra here is presenting this picture. Yeah, this is a disastrous event. We all know about this thing. But the Lord was behind all this, and he was orchestrating this whole thing to fulfill his purposes. And he's leaving out a lot of the details that you read about in Kings. This division wasn't primarily due to Solomon's apostasy, which you would get from the Kings, or even from Rehoboam's arrogance, which you can even read about here, but it was to make a distinction amongst the people. And look at it over in verse 13 of chapter 11. It says, and the priests and the Levites who were in all Israel presented themselves to him from all places where they lived. For the Levites left their common lands and their holdings and came to Judah and Jerusalem, because Jeroboam, who's the leader of the northern kingdom, Jeroboam and his sons cast them out from serving as priests of the Lord, and he appointed his own priests for the high places and for the goat idols, for the calves that he had made. He set up golden calves, 2 of them in Israel, and said, hey, here's where we're going to worship, because he doesn't want the people going back to Jerusalem, because then he fears that they'll go back under Rehoboam. And so, but the priests, they're not in on that, and so they're all migrating down to Jerusalem. And it says in verse 16, and those who had set their hearts to seek the Lord of God of Israel came after them from all the tribes of Israel to Jerusalem to sacrifice to the Lord, the God of their fathers. So the priests, they all moved down to Jerusalem, and the people who want to seek the Lord, the people who have set their hearts on seeking the Lord, they follow after the priests. They all come to Jerusalem. So here's what God was up to. He was up to make a distinction between those who are seeking the Lord and those who are walking away from him. He's separating the godly people from the apostate people. And this is the positive effect, is that in this division there was the preservation of Judah, Jerusalem, the temple, all that, and it was kept apart from the apostasy of the north. So you see God at work here. He's shifting things around. He's sifting through the people, and he's having all the godly people come down to Jerusalem and Judah. He's preserving this godly line. He's preserving Judah. He's keeping the promises that he's made to David. And that's just like what's happening to the people Ezra's writing to. These are the people who have set their hearts on the Lord. You know, a lot of Jews stayed in Babylon, but these are the ones who have set their heart on the Lord. They're seeking the Lord. They want to come back. They want to reestablish the temple. They want to worship the Lord the way he prescribed for them to do it. And so they're all coming back. And so again, you see what Ezra's doing. He's writing to encourage and strengthen and build up the people that he's writing to, and to assure them that the Lord is at work. And you can look around at our world today and see what's happening, and you can be sure that the Lord is at work, and he's preserving his people. He's identifying his people. He's sifting through everything because his plan is in process, and his purposes will be fulfilled perfectly. That's our confidence. That's the confidence that the people had back then that Ezra's writing to. That's confidence for you and me on this Tuesday, that the Lord is at work. We may not see exactly what he's doing right now, but that's our confidence. We're trusting in him. And so that's plenty of encouragement and strength for us for this Tuesday. And we'll see you tomorrow for more Bible time.